came back with a bang. Window down, yelling out money, anything. Ayy, ooh, got the foot on the gas. Pedal to the metal when I'm getting to the back. Ayy, got the foot on the gas. Pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast. Ayy, ayy, let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss. Ayy.
This episode is brought to you by SPI Logistics, the premier freight agent logistics firm in North America. For over 40 years, SPI has been diligently building the most successful freight agent network to provide first-class relationships for our shippers, receivers, and carrier partners. We are more than another transportation network. We are a dedicated team of professionals united by one singular purpose, and that is to expedite our agents' success. All of our agents are set up for success on day one, as they are provided with a full suite of support staff that is ready to assist them with everything from after-hours emergencies to financial and administrative needs on a no-fee basis. This way, you can focus on continuing to grow your business. There is no financial risk to start, and you have the ability to earn up to 75% in commissions. If you are looking to take control of your financial future and build your business with the backing of one of the most successful logistics firms in North America, visit www.spi3pl.com to learn more. Do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is a Freight Coach podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys, provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I do say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, you guys, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve, so you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Thursday, everybody. Corey Buchan, what's going on, brother? And hey, you guys, it's going to be a solo show today. We got some headlines we're going to be breaking down here. Just a couple of quick reminders. My team wants me to say this at the beginning of the show. If you get value in what you heard today and you're not subscribe to the show, you guys. And if you're feeling really ambitious after this one, which you should be, rank the show on iTunes and Spotify, because if you saw value, your network's going to see value as well. Also, just a quick reminder, you guys, we have a weekly newsletter. It drops every single Wednesday, but I need you to go to thefreightcoach.com to register for it. I don't auto-sign anybody up for anything, just like I don't pay for downloads and likes and comments and anything, because I believe in that value exchange. So if you want to get in on it, I need you to go to thefreightcoach.com to auto-prompt it to register, and then take care of it there. And yeah, it's just once a week, you guys. We talk about the industry. We talk about rates, fuel prices, stuff like that. And we don't bombard you with a bunch of crap. But with that being said, you guys, we got a solo show today. It's going to be a lot about what I think are our friends in DC, and I say friends very loosely, over-regulating the industry and a bunch of stuff that's going on out there. And we're going to break that down. But I wanted to, I'm going to be starting to incorporate like a little bit of a market report. And like, obviously inside of my brokerage, like I pay for rating software. I have a bunch of stuff out there, and I'm going to start kind of filtering this. And especially when I have to do these when I get to do these solo shows, I want to have them be a little bit more tactical and not just like breaking down articles the entire time. And these are just like some legitimate strategies that we use inside of our operation to win more freight. And to, most importantly, though, read the market. And I think like that is what's most important out there, that I don't know of a lot of content that is really like kind of teaching people how to read the freight market. And, right now when we're out there, it's pretty stable across the board, right? Like there's not a lot of stuff that's moving that is it's like I'm seeing anything that is kind of giving me any indication that like, oh my gosh, this is changing. It's going to change quick here. Everybody be aware of this. But at the end of the day, I just want to help you guys out with what I would do in this instance if I was moving this lane, or if I was out there trying to win or like earn customers inside of these freight markets. And if you guys like this and you want to see more of this, just let me know down in the comments, or DM me specific lanes that you might be working on. Again, I don't need customers or anything like that. I just want to help you guys read markets and kind of how, like, what I look for in indicators to see if there's tightening of capacity, if rates are going to increase or anything like that out there. So we're going to be doing this. I'm going to kind of filter it in. There's not going to be like a set day for it. It just, if I'm ever rocking a solo show, we're going to jump in with that. But I wanted to bring up this lane here. It's going to be Minneapolis, Minnesota to Houston, Texas. And this is going to be for a reefer trailer out there. And a lot of the data that I'm seeing, rates are they're stable, right, for the most part, but there is a gap out there. And if you're out there and you're ever pricing freight, you see that, right? Like there might be like a $400 variance out there. So I'm looking currently on a couple of my rating softwares that I use, and I'm seeing rates as low as $2,900 from Minneapolis to Houston. And I'm also seeing rates as high as $3,400 out there, right? So like that's a $500 rate variance that's going on. So I chose reefer freight today because there is there's some different factors, especially inside of this one, that I would change my pricing strategy on, right? Like there's actually 3 different classifications on how you would price a refrigerated load. There's your frozen loads. That's going to be more expensive than your fresh loads. And, frozen are -10, fresh is going to be, 30, I think it's like 35 to 38 degrees or something like that. And then there's like the temperature controlled, which is essentially like weather protect is like essentially 55 degrees and above. So that is like the main thing, right? Because I think like a lot of people will make the mistake and they'll see this and they'll be like, oh, it shows $2,800. I'm just going to quote that for a -10 load that goes out there. And that's just not the case. And then another thing to take into consideration, I chose this lane specifically because Minneapolis to Dallas is a 2-day run, right? Like most people are going to want to pick that up on a Monday, deliver it on a Wednesday. So that might be where that $2,800 rate is that you're seeing out there. But if this has to pick up on, say, a Thursday to a Sunday or a Friday to a Monday, and there's that extra day of transit in there, realistically, carriers are going to ask for more money for that specific move, right? So that is where you can kind of see that variance in pricing when you're going out there to look at that, right? So to kind of recap here, you guys, if we're looking at Minneapolis, Minnesota to Houston, Texas, it's 1,200 miles out there. The rating software that I use inside of my organization, it shows anywhere between $2,800 and $3,400 on that specific lane over the last 15 days. So if I'm looking at that, those are the factors I want to take in. If I'm bidding on freight and it's a frozen load, that is realistically going to err on a higher side of the price, as opposed to if it's just a fresh or a weather protect temperature inside of that reefer. And then again, the days of the week, you guys, these are very, very crucial as you're going out there and you're bidding on your customer's freight. A 1,200 mile run Monday to Wednesday is going to be priced very different from that same 1,200 miles as if it's Thursday to Sunday or Friday to Monday out there, because there's that additional day of transit that is required. But again, if you're looking out over the long term, depending on the day of the week that your customer is shipping this freight, you guys, you're going to want to get in there, and there's going to be some lanes that you're going to have to eat it on, right? You might not make some money on those ones, but if you're looking for that long-term consistent pricing, and we have those lanes inside of our operation where it's like, hey, if this moves Monday to Thursday, we're going to be good on it. But if this has to pick up Friday and deliver on a Monday, probably not going to make any money. But at the end of the day, we're servicing the account and we're thinking long-term. And if any of you are like me and out there bidding on freight or trying to win freight and earn customers every single day, you know that opportunities are few and far between out there. So take that for what it's worth, you guys. Again, like this is just what I do inside of my operation. This is how I price freight. And these are the factors that I take into consideration as I'm going out there and trying to earn customers. And so we're going to be talking about that. We're going to sprinkle some of those little strategy sessions in here throughout the month. But, you got to look at those. There's multiple factors, you guys. It's not just as simple. It's easy, but it's not just as simple as just like, oh, hey, the national average on Minneapolis to, or excuse, not the national average, but the average rate between Minneapolis and Houston for a reefer is showing $2,900. That's what I should bid on it. There's multiple factors that go into it. You need to take those into consideration if you're looking to earn customers' business for the long term out there. So that's our little how do you quote freight segment. that we're going to start incorporating here, you guys, as we do solo shows throughout the month. Because, at the end of the day, you guys, all my guests have day jobs, and I'd love to have people come on all the time and shoot the shit with me and break stuff down with me. But, I'd like to also keep these solo shows in there so I can get a little bit more strategy based and kind of like what we do inside of our operation. And, it's just the stuff that we've done throughout the entirety of my career. All right, let's get into the fun shit where we're going to talk a bunch of crap about all of our friends in DC and every state capital out there that can't seemingly get on the same page with a lot of this and a lot of the regulations that are coming out. And, the title of this episode is promptly are regulators trying to kill trucking? And short answer, yes, it's just over regulation. It seems like it's just another thing and another thing. And, before we get into that, I really, really hope the current administration takes the stance that they said they were of every law that they put into place, they're going to remove some from it. I don't have the exact figures in front of me on what they said they were going to do, but it would be awesome to see them, not put so many laws in and take out, they should be taking out a lot more. But first article, you guys, ttnews.com, ATA renews call for stricter federal safety enforcement. And then it goes on to say the American Trucking Association is renewing its call for stricter enforcement of federal safety laws in the wake of, we all know what happened down in Florida. So we're going to pass up a bunch of this. And, it does go on to say that in the driver obviously got his CDL from California on a limited term, non-domiciled CDL. And then Chris Spear goes on to say, America doesn't lack people who seek commercial driver's licenses. What we lack are qualified drivers who meet the high standards of professionalism and safety to our industry that our industry expects and the law demands. He added, qualified means you can speak English, read road signs, understand safety rules, and respect our laws. In addition to the investigation that went out there, Sean Duffy on August 26th set a 30-day deadline for 3 states to comply with these federal requirements: California, New Mexico, and Washington. Otherwise, they are at risk of losing federal funds. And we already talked about this on Tuesday's show, so we're not going to dig too much deep into it. Obviously, Chris Spear praised the move by putting states that refuse to enforce the federal ELP on notice. USDOT is doing what's necessary to protect the motoring public. And, again, I agree with that, right? Like if there's a federal law that is out there, I understand how the U.S. is structured and stuff like that. But if one state is expected to abide by it, every state should be expected to abide by it. So I like the move that they're doing out there with this. But, he did stress about that there needs to be more that has to be done here for safety and everything else. And I am, some of the key points of this article that it is, the investment into safety, right? And it goes in the article, it lists that the trucking industry has poured $14 billion into safety programs, a 40% increase covering driver training, onboard technology, and compliance, while the ROI on safety spending becomes why is it impossible to ignore out there? And, it goes on to say that the ATA is pushing for dash cams, and it's a defense against stage accidents and inflated lawsuits. And I just look at it, I understand. And again, I'm not a truck driver, right? At the end of the day, my family I come from a long line of truck drivers. I understand why drivers do not want the inward facing cameras. I truly do. I truly get that, even if it's supposed to be off, is it going to actually be off and stuff like that? I'm not here to argue anything like that. But, when it comes down to dash cams, I've seen enough crash footage out there on social media. And then some of the guests that I've had on my show who are, risk experts and stuff out there. I look at it it's easy to always sit here and say, I don't want to be a part of it until it's you. I hope nobody gets into an accident, but the facts are the facts, you guys. People are going to get into fucking crashes. Is your business going to be protected in that moment? Because and I said this yesterday on the show. I do not think truck drivers and trucking companies are afforded the innocent until proven guilty, which the court system and the judicial system here in the United States is supposed to afford all citizens of this country. Unfortunately, I feel like with nuclear verdicts and the just onslaught of headlines that are out there, I think most drivers are guilty until proven innocent, right? I can't it's not a fact, right? But like I feel like that's where we're at with a lot of this. So when it comes to dash cams, and again, I've had people in the insurance space come on it as well and talk about how cameras can reduce your premium and everything and what you're paying for insurance and stuff like that. And when I own trucks, because like that's definitely part of my long-term strategy, you guys, is to have a fleet, I'm going to have outward facing cameras on there. I want to prove to be able to prove that my driver wasn't at fault. And furthermore, when it comes down to how many drivers out there who are listening to this show, or brokers out there who are listening to this show right now, had a drive-in or a reefer load, and then the trailer got rejected at loading because there was all of a sudden a big gash in the side of it, and then the loader saying, "Oh, I didn't do it. It was there the whole time." Again, like if you have a camera that proves that happened, you guys, like unfortunately, I wish it wasn't like this, right? But unfortunately, we're at a point where you need to be able to prove this stuff. You need to be able to prove that if somebody causes this damage out there, your business is protected at the end of the day. And again, it's not fair that we're here, but like, again, we gotta play the game that the hand that we're dealt. And I look at it is, it's one of those situations where cameras solve a lot of, or not, maybe not solve. Cameras minimize a lot of potential litigation that could happen out there when you can prove that you were not at fault. And it also goes on to talk about cargo theft inside of the industry. Obviously, we know it's a major issue out there. Talking about organized rings they're hacking dispatch systems to steal freight. And then the ATA wants this treated as a tier 1 policy issue. Should fleets be investing in cybersecurity in the same way that they do physical security? I'm actually going to be at the NMFTA cybersecurity conference next month in Austin, Texas. You guys should come down and check that out. That has completely opened up my eyes from a cyber perspective and hacking and everything else that can come along with it. But I think cargo theft is only going to get more and more technologically savvy is the best way to put it, you guys, because it's not, and yes, it's from my stance, more than often than not, it's an inside job, but it's able to be pulled off because there are people out there who are wherever they're located, and they're able to get in and infiltrate this stuff, whether through double brokering, identity theft, and stuff like that. And they're able to reroute this freight. And then the majority of this freight is gone before most people even know the truck or the freight has been stolen, right? Like it's already liquidated and out on the streets and probably consumed by the time they even know that, right? So that's a big deal. And I truly think that it is getting to the point, I will say, and I'll agree with them on this one, it has gotten to the point where they need to treat this as like borderline terrorism, to get it to the level of safety and security that we need to reduce this and curb this at a very high level, because cargo theft is a very real thing. And if you've ever read a history book, you guys, what is the first thing that they cut off if they're going to try to attack you? Your supply lines. All right. So just putting that out there. It's just a thought. Could be a couple years down the road, but that's where my mind goes with a lot of this. They talked about truck parking. We know that our friends at Truck Parking Club are all over that out there, and they just actually released a really cool study on that. So if you guys want to check out that, hit up my friends over at the Truck Parking Club. And it goes on to say that actually we'll talk about this one in a future article or in an article down here. But I look at this is obviously, you guys, the ATA, I got a ton of respect for Chris Spear and what that organization does and lobbies for on Capitol Hill and stuff like that. But like a lot of this stuff, you guys, a lot of these groups that are out there, they fight the policy and try and get policy in that aligns with their donors, right? It's pretty simple, just like how most politicians really only fight for stuff that their highest paying donors pay them for. But anyways, you guys, that article, check it out, ttnews.com. Title of that article is about the ATA renews calls for stricter federal safety enforcement. And again, I agree. As much as I don't want any more government overreach, I believe that we are at a point where it's like if there's going to be certain rules that are out there, they have to be enforced at every single state. There cannot be any exceptions to these rules. So next article, this one came out 2 days ago, and this one is from overdriveonline.com. Another good article by Alex Lockey. It goes on why state police are letting drivers placed out of service go free. Again, this is DOT. They called out California, Washington, New Mexico. New Mexico State Police called out the DOT for letting 7 drivers placed out of service go. Responded directly by saying there's no easily accessible way for us to know if a driver has been placed out of service for a previous violation. I find that very hard to believe, but I don't at the same time because the FMCSA is a dumpster fire. Let's call it what it is. Weiser said officers can only access inspection information at roadside by manually reviewing numerous documents. There's a great spot for technology to come in and automate all of that stuff. There's a free business idea for all of you guys as well. If they're going out there and saying that there's no actual digital way to track this stuff. And then to get a clearer picture of exactly what documents inspectors review during a stop and what they might be missing. The Overdrive queried the Commercial Vehicle Safety Alliance, which is tasked with maintaining consistent inspections out there. Ultimately, it looks like the FMCSA and DOT may have conflated federal out-of-service orders with driver-level out-of-service violations issued by states. The checking of them in previously issued out-of-service violations on a prior inspection report are two different things. Federal out-of-service orders are issued by FMCSA and are intended to halt interstate operations of the motor carrier. Out-of-service violations, on the other hand, are issued to the individual driver or vehicle during the roadside inspection. It is true, she added, that an inspector's inspection system will notify an inspector when they have queried a commercial vehicle or driver affiliated with a motor carrier who has been ordered to stop interstate operations. Yet the same notification doesn't come through for individual out-of-service violations for the truck or driver. The same functionality does not exist to notify inspectors of previously documented out-of-service violations. I just don't understand how there's this big of a disconnect, right? Like, I don't. How is it that these things are happening, but nobody's following through with it? I don't know. Maybe we should also look at the fact, and this is something that I brought up 1,000 times on the show, that there's 800 MCs at one address. I don't know. Maybe the FMCSA doesn't actually do anything with the data. How about that? That's where we're going to go. And again, this is Chris Jolly's opinion only, but a lot of this stuff is starting and stopping at the FMCSA and the DOT level here. So again, maybe this is an area we should start looking at actually fixing. And yes, every state should be enforcing these rules, but like with all of this information that's out there, why isn't there a more cleaner report and an easier way to show this? It's the fact that there's people who can fail these, and again, this isn't just like an ELP thing. If they're put out of service for anything, that there's a way that they can circumvent it. Like, again, criminals don't care about the law, so like it doesn't matter to them. But like for the people that are out there, if they can find a way to circumvent it, they're probably going to. So again, this seems like a pretty big deal, FMCSA, that we should probably get a grip on that the fleet and the individual driver themselves, there's no correlation to that. That seems like a pretty big issue out there. And then I would say that the inspectors, they need all of this stuff in front of them, right? Like if you're going to go out there and you should digitize a lot of this, which maybe you are, right? Like I'm not privy to a lot of this, but I also know that our government works at the speed of a snail. So this is probably 15 years and 47 comment sections away from even getting on the docket out there. But, I look at it is like if we're going to have this stuff out there, if we're going to sit here and say that we need to improve safety, we need to improve enforcement, I think instead of blaming states, and I'm not saying states shouldn't be hold themselves accountable here to enforce the laws, but like, shouldn't the individual governing body who is requiring all of this have their shit in line first? I don't know. Maybe I'm overlooking mean, maybe I'm missing something here, but I look at this as, it's always easy to point the finger in a different direction. And one thing I wish our current administration would do, and I get it, I understand it's a lot easier just to point the finger in a different direction, but I feel like most people, and again, I can't speak for anybody but Chris Jolly, I think most people just want some accountability. All I wish the DOT and the FMCSA or Sean Duffy would just come out and say, like, hey, we're in a dumpster fire and we're working on fixing a lot of this stuff. All right. And here's how we're going to do it. It's going to take some time, but we've identified these critical things in the 8 months I've been in office. We're going to work on these first and give us like an actual timeline here. I think like the political mudslinging that goes on is only going to cost more lives, unfortunately, until our elected officials get their shit in line in DC and, bring up the fact that, I mean, that's just so like nerve wracking that you read that and that there's no like digital way to track a driver in a fleet and see any correlations out there like that. That seems like that's a pretty big deal, right? Like maybe we should start there. Again, that's just what I think I would like to see. That article is from overdriveonline.com. You guys check that out. Alex Lockie drops some really good articles. It's very subjective and middle of the road. At least all the articles of his that I've read, I don't really see any real biases in there. But check it out, you guys. And again, all the links to these articles that we break down on the show are going to be uploaded into the show notes for you guys all to just to easily go in there and click on and read it for yourself. And hell, you could use Grok or Chat GPT to summarize it all for you if you don't want to read all 18 paragraphs or whatever they might be. Last article, my favorite state, California versus U.S. showdown. Two cases might head to the same stage, and Federal Register notice posted. This article was from FreightWaves, and the growing battle between federal government and various California trucking-focused environmental initiatives wrapped up a busy August with first a legal argument that two key pieces of litigation should be kept separate, and two, a more formal step in the federal government pushing back against a portion of the California Clean Truck check regulation that can affect all trucks doing business in the Golden State. And in the most recent development, the U.S. government, representing the EPA, late last week filed its arguments with the Federal District Court in the Eastern District of California as to why the lawsuit challenged the CTP, California Clean Truck Partnership, filed by a group of engine and truck manufacturers who signed the CTP 2 years ago, should remain in its jurisdiction out there. I look at it as these lawsuits, they're considered two separate cases, and they want them to consolidate them, like the state of California does, but the U.S. government opposed it, citing differences in the parties out there. And separately, that the EPA published a Federal Register notice formally objecting to California's. I just look at it I don't understand why California just makes it so hard to do business inside of the state. Like they've been at the forefront of a lot of, in my opinion, bad policies out there. I know, CARB and everything else that goes on. We're not even going to talk about AB5 here, but like I look at a lot of this as like, why are we making it so challenging, like, to do business in the state of California? Why is California trying so hard to tank its already state that's like in a massive budget shortfall? Like, I don't understand why they're trying to make it harder and give people an out at all. You'd think at some point they would be like, hey, maybe we went too far. We should probably rein it back in here. Yeah, Sonny, I know you asked that same question. Sonny lives in California. I know you ask that question every single day. Zach Williams, what's going on, brother? And then implications, the EPA's formal objection to the California's rule regarding out-of-state truck testing signals a broader challenge of state-led environments. So essentially, long story short, you guys, if you're going to even drive in the state of California, you don't even have to be incorporated there or do business there. They're trying to get you to follow those rules that anybody would do if they actually had their business located there. And then these rulings also affect manufacturing investments, trucking compliance costs, and environmental progress. And then I look at, again, what is this going to do? Fortunately, unfortunately, the state of California, the economy is too critical to the overall freight flow in the United States, where I feel like a lot of people are going to deal with it regardless of what happens. But again, I'm not a fan of more government overreach, but I like the fact that the federal government is going after the state in this situation to remove some of this stuff and get this out of the way, so this can open up more opportunities in the state, right? And I just think that it's just a big back and forth. And again, if you pay attention to the overall political scene, the governor of California is very much running for president in 2028. And he's just playing to his base with a lot of this. And, again, you could look at that from that perspective as, it's a smart move from his part to go out there. But again, there is some big, they're just showing the dynamics out there between the state and the federal levels. I think it's going to be a thing to watch. I don't know if anything's going to happen from this, but I look at it as the state of California is never going to make it easy for people to do business there. And they are seemingly just going to continue to make it harder, especially and hide behind the guise of climate change and everything else. And we won't get into that because we're out of time, you guys. And I got to get back out there to brokering freight. But that article was from freightwaves.com, and it was about California versus the U.S. Showdown and federal government suing the state of California. And at the end of the day, I want to see less regulations. All right. If you made it this far in the episode, I want to see less regulations. I want to just see some accountability from either side of the aisle. Somebody just come up and be like, hey, all of you hundreds of millions of taxpayers, we're sick and tired of burning all your money on pointless shit. We actually want to do something to improve your guys' lives. That's all I'm asking for. I don't know about you guys, but I'm sick and tired of it. I'm sick and tired of more rules and regulations and making it harder and harder for individuals to make a profit as a business owner, at least inside the transportation industry. But that's going to be it, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you got value in what you heard, subscribe to the show, you guys. If you're feeling really ambitious after this one, rank the show on iTunes and Spotify, because if you saw value, chances are your network's going to see it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang, window down, yelling out money.